Welcome to the Heavy Spoilers Show. I'm your host Deffinition, and you're now locked into the channel where we've been watching The Watchmen to break down everything that you need to know about the full season on HBO. After the huge twist that blew our minds last week, it's time to visit the Doctor and see how Angela met the guy named after the world's biggest dildo. And yeah, I still can't get over that ex-Carl Abar Easter egg. Throughout this video, we're going to be going over the entire episode's plot and discussing the huge revelations in it. There will be heavy spoilers here, so if you haven't had a chance to watch the latest entry yet and don't want to know what happens, then I highly suggest that you turn off now. With that out of the way, I just want to give a huge thank you for clicking this video. Now let's get into our breakdown of Watchmen episode 8. Okay, so episode 8 is just a massive trip through time that shows how the past influences the future, but also, due to Dr. Manhattan's powers, how the future influences the past. As they say, it's very much a chicken and the egg situation, and for those who don't know, Dr. Manhattan can see every single moment of his life at the exact same time. He knows what will happen in the future, in the past, and in the past knows what will happen in the future. Alan Moore wanted to create a character who was aware that time was cyclical, and also show that in knowing what would happen in the future, how you would be tied to it, forced to live out every moment, watching it all play out the way that it was supposed to. I think the best way to describe it is that imagine if you watched episode 3 of Watchmen first, then episode 7, then went back to 1, you would kind of have this knowledge of what would be happening, but the episodes themselves would be reordered. Still, they would possess the same narrative though, and thus you would be able to fit together all of the pieces in between. Yeah, it's difficult to explain, but that's probably the best analogy for it that I can think of. Anyway, this episode exemplifies what it would be like to fall in love with someone who knows everything. Sounds like my ex-girlfriend that. You having that? Dr. Manhattan is a god who is all-powerful, all-knowing, and one that doesn't age. This episode though, it really humanizes Dr. Manhattan through one of our most human emotions, love, and it shows how that can change someone. Turning the god into a man, Cal was able to accomplish this by losing his abilities, and this is about reinstating them in order to save the world. Episode 8, God walks into a bar, aka a god, Dr. Manhattan, walks into a bar, as in Angela Abar, is shown from the Doc's perspective, and like the graphic novel, it follows a similar aesthetic of jumping back and forth to unveil the entire plan and how everything fits together. It opens in Saigon and we see a bit of blue dick graffiti, and then Doc walks into Eddie's bar, toned down and wearing a mask to fit in with everyone. He picks up 2 beers, and this mirrors John's first meeting with Janie Slater in the graphic novel, in which she bought him one. He said it was the first time a girl did that for him, and it was a big moment where their fingers touched as she handed over the glass. The Doc shows up and just completely blows Angela away, almost talking in riddles, and there's comparisons to Zeus coming down to make love with the mortals. We learn that the vision of Manhattan we saw on Mars in episode 1 is just a decoy, carrying out predetermined paths, and that the Doc has been on Europa, creating a utopia that we know Ozzy would later end up living on. At the end of the Watchmen graphic novel, Doc did say he was going to go off into the universe and create life there, however, we get the feeling that it was just too perfect to ever feel real, and thus he abandoned it. Anyway, now we know that Doc created it, this is why Ozzy made the bodies say, "Save me D," and it also explains why Ozzy wanted to leave, and I love how there were actually some similarities with the two that I never really thought of. John lived on Earth and ended up leaving it in the graphic novel because he was just sick of being caught up in the mundanity of it, and Ozzy, who lived on Europa, too wished to leave because he became bored. We watched the Miracle Maker walk on water and create Adam and Eve, or rather Mr. Phillips and Ms. Crookshank. When he was younger, Doc, or rather John, saw the two, the real versions of them, getting it on, and they became large influences on him, passing him a blue Bible that made him learn about God and how he created life, which would go on to influence his actions down the line. They instill in him the promise to return to the castle with the Bible once he has created something beautiful, and he fulfills this in his actions on Europa. He also recreates the castle that they lived in, which was a huge part of his early life. Throughout the episode, Doc's actual face is hidden, and this keeps the character separate from Cal, and also means that fans of the graphic novel don't have their prior image of the character changed. Instead, all we ever see really is Angela's reaction to him as she tries to tempt him to reveal his powers. Angela says she hates Dr. Manhattan because, looking back, he basically changed the world, causing the events that would lead to her parents' deaths. And as we know, the Watchmen universe vastly differs from the one that we inhabit from the Vietnam War onwards. Angela also mentions how the bomber that killed her parents was a puppeteer that wanted to hold the strings, and this is a reference to the graphic novel in which Dr. Manhattan, when discussing his ability to view time, says, "We are all puppets, I can just see the strings." This has very much shaped her perception, just how Doc's perception was shaped by his powers. He was burdened by what the world wanted him to be and what they thought of him, but inside he was crying out to be human. Doc just wants to have dinner with Angela, but she says that he won't be able to blend in. So they go and visit the morgue, and Angela reluctantly chooses a corpse named Calvin that she wants him to transform into. She clearly has some attraction to him, but won't admit it to herself due to him being dead, but John still takes his form. Now, what the episode does excellently is that it shows how the two end up falling in love, but it also sets a deadline on their relationship of 10 years, and we know that it will come to a tragic end. It kind of fits into the regrets thing, in which John says that he regrets Vietnam, but how we also end up doing things that we know he will regret anyway. John's biggest issue is that he can never be in the moment, and that Angela hates how much she is tied to fate. There's also another Easter egg for the graphic novel when Angela asks when's the last time he was afraid, and similar to the book, he discusses his transformation in the intrinsic field. As predicted, Angela asks him to leave, and he's devastated. This kind of shows the complexity of the character, as he can still feel the emotional weight of moments, even if he knows what's going to happen in advance. He visits Ozymandias in Karnak, who, similar to his home on Europa, has smashed the place up, watching as the world he wished to create didn't come to fruition, as he knows that humans will always be driven to create weapons. And yet Cal is packing a weapon, let me tell you ladies. Anyway, we see the two reminisce over old times, and we also see Ozzy is the one who creates the squid falls in order to maintain world peace. He's been running them manually from his home, keeping up the lie. Ozzy draws the conclusion that Doc has fallen in love and thus has changed himself, like my ex tried to change me. I said, are you having that? We discover that Ozzy created the device that stops Doc seeing the entirety of his life, and that this is made of tachyons. I thought this would be the case last time, but here it holds a lot more weight in the episode, as we discover it's pretty much his kryptonite, and it means that the character does actually have a weakness. Before moving on the plan, Cal goes to visit Will, and through Angela asking questions, informs him that Judd is a member of Cyclops and about his robe. This of course shows how he knew ahead of time and how he was able to inform True that Doc was in Tulsa and who he was, as he had seen the character's new appearance. He also knows that Dr. Manhattan's tied to his granddaughter, so yeah, it just puts the pieces of the puzzle together really nicely. Will lives in Captain Metropolis's old pad, and the two form an alliance to contact Angela and also look after their children on the night that the 7th Cavalry come. Angela believes that she started it all, but as mentioned earlier, the past is the future and the future is the past, and so on. It's chicken and the egg. Ozzy makes a deal with the Doc to move to the Utopia on Europa, wishing to escape due to his great failings on Earth. It's a really emotional scene that I think grounds Ozzy quite a lot. I always kind of looked at his character as being slightly underdeveloped, but here Jeremy Irons really knocks it out of the park. So yeah, theory confirmed, Doc created the world for Ozzy, and there's potential that Doc also told True when Ozzy would return, and this is why she bought the farm at the start of episode 4. Ozzy could also be True's father if the comedian is not, and she could have encased the character in gold, which is what she was referring to when she mentioned bringing her mother and father to see the completion of her clock. Angela puts the tachyon device into Cal, and together they move to Tulsa, the location that she never got to see after the death of her grandma. We also learn that Doc can pass on his powers through someone eating them, which I think will play a big part in the show going forward. Perhaps Angela will get them, but it also shows that Joe Keane may be able to get them through this method, which I think is what's going to likely happen. Finally, after 43 minutes, we catch up to the moment that left last week on a devastating cliffhanger. The 7th Cavalry are coming for John, and all Angela can do is defend him. John throughout this just feels so lost, weary from what's going on, and kind of tied to the inevitability of it all. We also learn that it was Cal that saved Angela on the White Knight as theorized, and he seems completely nonchalant about the incoming attack. Angela tries to stop them, but as we know, she can't save him. It is a great action scene, but yeah, one that's ultimately doomed to end in tragedy. John intervenes to save Angela, but as we know, this won't work. The cavalry use the tachyonic cannon to transport Doc to their headquarters, and we're left wondering what will happen to him. Now, will John die? I don't think so, and people have failed to kill the character in the past, which I think will be repeated here. Personally, I actually believe that Joe Keane may even succeed in his plan, with John passing on his powers as mentioned in the episode. However, he will gain a perception like Dr. Manhattan, and then become completely removed from his views and goals due to the detachment that possessing the powers of John will carry. If Tachyons can defeat the Doc, then they can likely defeat Joe, and I think the weapons that he created for Doc will be turned on him in order to defeat him. Also, in case you didn't stick around for the post-credits scene, in that we see Ozzy being punished for trying to escape. They squash tomatoes in his face, and we learn that Vite 2 suffers with the Utopia's perfection. He wants to be needed. The game warden visits him and gives him another anniversary cake, but it has a horseshoe in the bottom. It looks like the clones are slowly getting things wrong, and we did see in the premiere that they gave him one instead of a knife, so yeah, this is a nice callback to that. We also learn that the game warden was in fact the original Mr. Phillips. Anyway, using the horseshoe, Ozzy is going to Shawshank his way out of the cell and finally make a break for it. I do think Ozzy will return and, having reached out to the Doc, perhaps be transported back to Earth, which is where we will see him land on the farm where he was picked up by True. This show is going to reveal it all soon enough, and hopefully this time next week we finally have all of the answers to everything. Now obviously I'd love to hear your thoughts on the episode, and if you agree with the theories in this video. Comment below and let me know, and if you enjoyed this then please give it a thumbs up, and make sure you stay locked to the channel for more Watchmen breakdowns as the series begins to wrap up. We'll be discussing every episode, so it's definitely worth keeping locked into heavy spoilers for the finale. We also do a podcast called Watching The Watchmen, in which we break down the original graphic novel issue by issue, so if you want to know the full backstory of the book then make sure you check it out after this. If you want to come chat to me after the video then make sure you follow me on Twitter at DefinitionYT, or head over to my Discord server, which will be linked in the description below. We drop videos on there early, so if you want to see stuff before anyone else then that's the best place to be. It's free to join and we have an awesome community, so hopefully I see you over there very soon. We're also giving away a free copy of the Marvel Phase 3 Part 2 box set on Blu-ray, which contains Black Panther, Infinity War, Endgame, Captain Marvel and more, and all you have to do to be in with a chance of winning is like the video, make sure you subscribe to the channel and leave your thoughts on Watchmen in the comment section below. The winner's going to be chosen on the 15th of December and the set will be shipped out from then to whoever gets the prize, so best of luck to everyone who takes part. This is a channel for people who are super into superheroes, so if that's the kind of thing you like, hit subscribe. Thanks again for taking the time to watch this. I've been Definition, you've been the best, and I'll see you next time. Take care, peace.